We are at Black Diamond Mortgage doing our home ownership stories, and we finally made it big time. I've got my most successful mortgage client of all time, for the most part, Natasha Ostrem here.
Hey, thank you, David Boy, for having me here.
The reason I say that is Natasha started young and started with very little investment, has acquired quite a bit of real estate. And I think the story of how you did all that is extremely motivating. So I wanted to have you here to share with everybody. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dave, for having me.
So just to kind of get things started, why don't you explain to people what it was like to buy your first house, like how old you were, and some details like that, and just give us a vision of what was going on at the time.
When I bought my first house, I was fresh out of college. I think I bought almost exactly a year after I graduated. And it was right in the middle of the crash, like 2012. And everybody was losing their homes to foreclosure. And I was doing a lot of short sales at the time. So I was helping people sell their home. And even though their mortgage was higher than what it was worth, and not lose their home to foreclosure. And yeah, I didn't think I could buy because I had way less than 2 years of income history because I graduated college. But my mom's my broker. I'm also a real estate agent. And she said, just go talk to Dave. So I went and talked to you, and you said, we can make it work, Natasha. I was like, whoa.
So the environment was that most people are losing their homes. You're going to go buy a home.
Right.
You're newly employed. Your mother's a realtor. Did your mother have a lot to do with you having a desire to buy a house?
She did. As a realtor, she was always like, they're not making any more dirt, though I think they are in Saudi Arabia. And she had really taught me the value of also multifamily and cash flow. So that's what I wanted to do. And my first house was a single family with an unfinished daylight walkout basement. And later I converted that into a second unit. And now I've got a great duplex.
How much did you put down on your first home purchase?
So I bought my first home with Dave here with a USDA RD loan for zero down. I literally got my $500 earnest money check back at closing.
So you had a vision for cash flow. The U.S. rural development tends to focus on single family homes. So when you bought that home, it was a single family home, right?
It was just a single family with a completely unfinished basement. But I actually had it built. I worked with a builder. And so I had told him later I'm going to convert this, but right now it has to be unfinished because or RD won't approve it.
So you went through kind of in your head like a multi-step process. I'm going to get a single family home with zero down, and then I'm going to do some steps in the future, like get another unit to rent, whatever that involved with. Was there anything involved with the city or just the builder?
I did a zoning change.
Wow.
I don't recommend that. That was difficult, the city. They don't make that easy. But yeah, I did a zoning change and everything, even though my house was surrounded by multifamily, literally fourplex on one side, duplex behind me, triplex, two houses over. They had zoned it single family. And so I had to go in and do a zoning change and had to get the neighbors on board because you can't do spot zoning and just do one property. And it was a great learning lesson for me.
And getting to know you, I think you're actually not that uncomfortable doing things like that.
I've been forced to a lot, but it's still not super fun. So,
Was it easy to buy your first house?
it was not easy. No, I didn't think I could buy because I was fresh out of college. I didn't have any work history. I didn't have any money. I had like student loans. I had to write all these letters, to the underwriter explaining that I promise I'll pay this back, and no, it's okay. Ignore the student loans, and I had to refinance my student loans as well during the process.
To get the payment down?
Yeah, to get the payment down, and it was a process. It was.
And we worked together a lot, so we saw where you needed to be and where you were, and then you
Right.
made the changes, and then you pulled it off.
You just got to jump through those hoops and make it work. I mean, it's worth it.
So down the road a ways, how far down the road are we?
We are 13 years.
13 years?
Yeah.
You own how much real estate now?
I own 5 vacation rentals. I own a duplex. I own a piece of dirt that I need to build something on. But that dirt is wonderful because it's in downtown Whitefish.
It's a good location.
It's a fabulous location. I own my own home in Montana, and then I own a home in Florida, and I spend my winters in Florida and my summers in Montana. And whichever home I'm not living in, I rent out long term to one tenant, usually a family or something, and that helps me not have, it helps pay the mortgage and keeps the house safe because you don't want to leave your house in Montana vacant in the winter. That's dangerous for the house. That's how you get, frozen homes.
So you're married to Chris,
Right.
and you just listed off a lot of real estate
there's
from
more.
where you started,
We bought
and there's
another
even more. Okay, so what people probably don't understand is, well, okay, so you barely bought the first house, and you had
Right.
to jump through all these hoops, and then you got it, and now you're talking about all this real estate. What do you do to like hop into more and more real estate? What is the tactic that you and Chris go through?
Well, first, we're really on board with each other and with the process of buying real estate and wanting to acquire more properties. Having a partner that, you guys agree on, you have the same level of risk, or even slightly different where one pushes the other a little bit, but not like wildly different because then it's not going to work. Where you can both see the vision, the cash flow, get on board. That's huge. The other cool thing about Chris is he has a W-2 job, which lenders and underwriters love. I'm commission-based and have cash flow from properties. So lenders want that steady income, but then I'm bringing the down payment. And I'm a real estate professional, according to the IRS or whatever. And so they know that I'm going to be able to handle it and run it, and they're not worried. So.
And then it takes a lot of money to buy all these homes. So you have a good situation where Chris has got a reliable job, and then you're able to do commission sales. How does it work to get the money to buy the future homes?
So one thing I always tell clients is when you buy your first home, then you don't sell it. You rent it out. And if you want to tap into that equity, get a line of credit, or if it's your primary, you can get a HELOC. And that's what I do. I have a lot of lines of credit. That's how I tap into the equity to then take that money for a down payment or a lot of remodels. Most of my properties need remodeled, like every one of them, pretty much. And so a lot of remodels and putting that money in and running the numbers. It has to cash flow because we aren't independently wealthy. We can't just pay all these costs and mortgages out of our pocket. The properties have to make sense. They have to stand on their own as a business.
So what I hear you saying is you buy the properties, you leverage the equity when it becomes available, make another down payment on another one. But when you buy, you make sure that the cash flow is there so that you're always able to keep doing this. You're
Yes.
not putting yourself in a situation where now you can't do anymore. You're stuck. You're always running a cash flow analysis, and then you're pulling money from the successful properties to go ahead and buy another one. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah, I would never want to get stuck where I can't. I mean, there is a time period where I just bought and we're getting it up and running, and I maybe can't buy this second. But yeah, I'm always wanting to be able to buy within a year.
So if you take a bunch of risk, you might have to settle down for a bit,
Right.
and then get ready to do it again.
Oh, we used to, our first remodels, we would max out every credit card we had to do the
No.
I know, it's very scary. It's very scary. But we didn't have any lines of credit. I didn't have any equity. There was no cash to tap into. And literally what we had was a credit card. So we'd be maxing out, we got like a Lowe's card, and be maxing all that out. And then commissions would come in and we'd be very hard paying those off.
So those are like temporary maneuvers
Very
because you guys are
temporary.
working a plan.
It was really just us pushing ourselves as hard as we could. Now we don't, now we never do that. We have lines of credit. I'm going to use that kind of thing. Credit cards are a bad way because their interest rates are horrible. But yeah, it was really just us pushing ourselves, and we didn't have any money. I mean, when I started out, I was making like $22,000 a year my first year. It was, yeah.
And I think the benefit of using that leverage could be summed up with the year 2021, because whatever leverage you use to get all this real estate, all the properties doubled in value. And so now that leverage doesn't look nearly as bad as it did at times, maybe. I don't know.
No, and I think in 2021, I got 2 lines of credit on properties because I was like, okay, this is the point to get it. Like, it's really, really high value. And I never have a crystal ball. Will values go up? Will they go down? Who knows? But I can at least see when it's a high value, go get a line of credit and have that money. Even if I don't need it right now, I will. There'll be another property that came along.
One of the things that you guys have done really well is identify properties that have a little bit more potential value than what might be apparent to everybody else. Can you just, you mentioned you did it on your primary, you kind of went with an option to get another rental unit in it down the road. So you did some planning and research and figured all that out. I've seen you do it on other properties too. Can you talk about a few of those purchases where you've kind of gotten ahead of the market with some research and figured some things out?
Yeah, we own vacation rentals, and pretty much all of those people weren't doing vacation rentals at the time. They weren't, I don't think, no, there's not a single vacation rental I owned that somebody had been renting nightly before I bought it. And even the first one I bought, I called the realtor and asked, hey, can you rent this nightly? And she's like, no, you can't. And I researched and worked, found out from the city that I could and what the zoning allowed and where that zoning was. And this was, there was some nightly rentals in Whitefish, but it's nothing compared to now. And it was kind of unheard of. And this like scary thing, like
now everybody's doing it.
Right. And lenders at the time were like, well, we don't have a product for you. Like this is scary. Just lie and tell us you're going to rent it long term. And I was like, I can't lie. Because you're going to see the financials come in and they're going to be short term. And it's just, that's the way it's going to be. So, but yeah, you have to do your research. I think I said I did a zoning change on my,
right.
So yeah, it's always a little bit of work, make it finagle.
And so when you want to acquire a bunch of real estate, a lot of people are going to say, well, Natasha, you did that in 2012. You started doing that. And of course you were able to do it. It's easy. Like you bought really low prices and now they're worth a lot. Everybody's looking around. This is 2023 and it looks like the prices are really high. Could you, in your opinion, do what you did back when you were 23? If you were 23 today, do you think you could replicate the situation and explain why you think that?
I mean, I'm still buying real estate in this market today, just like everybody else in the same market. And yeah, it's like I did buy one in 2012, but then I didn't buy them all then and then just said, okay, I'm good. I bought at the perfect time in the market. I keep buying, keep learning. And, we just bought our last property. It was last fall. And I'd love to buy another. We're talking to a friend right now about doing a deal together, which I haven't done before, but could be very interesting. And yeah, I think there are deals out there in any market. I call one of my friends, my husband's friends, call me lowball natty, and that's because I love to write lowballs if a client's up for it. And I say it's a numbers game. If you write 10 lowballs, one of them's going to stick, and you never know which one it is. So just keep writing them.
A lot of realtors just sighed when they heard you say that.
I know, but it's and it's tough. But if the seller a seller wants to sell and a buyer wants to buy, and everyone around them just needs to facilitate that and try really hard to help them do that. Because at the end of the day, a year later, that buyer's just going to be really happy they've got that property, that they worked so hard to get. So. But yeah, it's a numbers game, and there's niches in the market, whether you're, okay, I'm not going to be in town, I'm going to be slightly out of town, or maybe I'm going to buy something that's got a garage, I'm going to add a mother-in-law suite, or maybe I can add a tiny home in the back because it's on 2 acres. You just got to get creative. I was creative at the beginning. So
that was a cool negotiating tactic, but basically what I heard you say with lowball natty was, if you have a dream and you want to see if it'll work, you need to write it on paper and show it to the other party and see if they're willing to sign it.
Yes.
And maybe not everybody's going to agree with you.
Right. And a lot of times it'll almost be funny how insulted they are. And they're like, oh, we can't possibly respond to that. And I'm like, why? What happened? Like, your tongue broke? Or like, what's going on? But then sometimes 2 weeks later, they come back and they're like, actually, let's talk. Let's talk, because they haven't had any offers or something happened, or you never know what's going to happen in somebody's life, why they need to sell.
Negotiation isn't always comfortable for everybody.
Right.
Good tactic. Well, what I hear you saying is when you and Chris buy property, you make sure it cash flows and you buy and hold. And you're still doing it.
Still doing it. And buy and hold, these properties are for the grandbabies. As I always say, I don't have grandbabies. My kids are very young, but one day this will be for the grandbabies. And yeah, buy and hold. And property is an investment. And as much as you live there and it's your home, it's also a major financial investment. And you have to look at it that way.
And would you guys say that as a couple, you guys look at buying real estate as something you're willing to do, and you guys sacrifice something else so that you can make this happen? Is that part of your married couple culture?
It is. All my rentals are much nicer than the home I live in. They're like, they all have granite countertops and heated tile floors in the bathroom, and several of them have hot tubs. I don't have a hot tub. I don't have granite countertops. But one of our jokes is we don't get nice things, the renters do. But one day we'll have very nice things. And in between then, like if my husband lost his job, that wouldn't be the end of the world,
You have a lot of assets you could sell because you've accumulated. You're not going to sell them.
I'm not going to sell them, Dave. We're
But
going to
you
live off the cash
have your
flow.
wealth is in
Talking
real
about
estate.
selling.
Your wealth is in the real estate, so you actually do have a lot of security right there.
Right. But yeah, it's funny because my husband's like, well, something really bad happened. We could sell this. And I'm like, over my dead body. We are not selling. This is for the grandbabies. So.
Well, I think a lot of people get years down the road in their life and the balance sheet, or you're sitting with your retirement guy, and it's like, okay, if you own a lot of, like you, there's a lot to work with there. And so congratulations, a lot of people, they get to, 40 years old and they've got their house and a car payment. They weren't doing what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of our friends were buying nice, comfortable home. I mean, my husband has a good job, a good W-2 job, and a lot of our friends were buying nice, comfortable homes and having babies. And we were being crazy and living in like that duplex. We actually moved into the basement unit before it was done, and the city was mad. They're like, you can't live here. You don't have a certificate of occupancy. I was like, I don't have anywhere else to live. I rented out everything else.
You were probably not living there. You're just hanging out.
Yeah, I'm like, we're not living here. They're like, there's a mattress in the bedroom. And I was like, it's fine.
Trying to address the homeless population.
Right. Like, well, we were living in another house, and then I had it rented out, and I had vacation rentals move in. I was like, we have to leave. And he's like, but, the basement unit isn't done. I'm like, I don't care. We have to leave. The renters are coming. And
you did a few things to be uncomfortable to get ahead on this real estate portfolio.
Right. It's it builds a little grit. You got to have that. So.
Well, congratulations. Natasha has accumulated a lot of real estate. She started with one home, and I think you counted off more than 10 pieces of real estate that you're working with right now.
Yeah, it's just about 10.
10, and still growing.
I want more, yeah.
And if somebody's ready to start now, have no fear, but be careful. Cash flow and hold.
Cash flow and hold. Your first home is not your dream home. Talk to your lender. Multifamily is awesome. Get creative, and it'll really be worth it down the road.
Well, thank you, Natasha. I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's inspirational to see somebody put the work in and get the results.
Hey, thank you, Dave. And Dave's awesome to work with. He's the best.